You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites discover each other's fandoms for the very first time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Marvel Monday. This is episode 14. And today we are covering Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Full disclosure, we are recording this before we record our Civil War episode, just because of scheduling, but, we're still watching them in order, so it's not a big deal. And plus, I feel like we could record this one kind of out of order because
it doesn't really...
It's not pertinent information to other things.
Yeah. It's more of an exposition piece, kind of like how Iron Man 1, Thor 1, Captain America, Ant-Man. It's more...
They're standalones.
Yes.
So, this was released in 2016 and directed by Scott Derrickson, whom I'm not really that familiar with.
He's done a lot of horror.
Okay.
It looks like he did Snowpiercer.
Haven't seen it.
He did Sinister 2, Sinister 1, Devil's Knot as executive producers.
I can't say I've ever seen any of these movies, though.
No, it looks like he does a lot of horror film, like horror suspense.
Apparently, I read somewhere that he, was intending, if it wasn't for the rights thing, he had every intention on, funding Doctor Strange himself, because he's a huge Doctor Strange nerd.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously it's owned by Marvel, so it would be difficult for him to do that. But,
yeah.
He had every intention on doing that if it wasn't for the rights issue.
Makes sense.
But he basically, lobbied to...
have it get made.
Yeah. Which I have a feeling they probably had every intention on doing it anyway.
That's the thing.
Because they already, I read something that they had telegraphed it a couple of times. They had talked about it a couple of times, so I feel like
there were talks, like how there were talks for
do Ant-Man.
There was talks to do an independent Hulk movie. There
were multiple
talks to do a ton of different things.
There were multiple references to, probably mainly not in Civil War, in Winter Soldier, where it's also referenced a couple, the orb is referenced in Thor.
The Eye of Agamotto was in Thor's Odin's Treasure.
The phrase crossroads was written on Sylvie's chocolate. There's multiple points
where they've talked about it. It was always hinted at they were going to once Phase 2 started. There were a lot of hints to... No one knew about Black Panther until Civil War.
Yeah.
That's when Black Panther was announced.
So, I had very little understanding for what this movie was going to be, which, frankly, I have found that I enjoy the movies more if I don't have any expectations, preconceived notions.
Okay.
And that includes watching the trailers. If I go in completely blind, I feel like I like them more. That being said, I didn't love this movie. I think really it was... I don't know. I have a hard time understanding the more otherworldly stuff in these movies.
Yeah.
It's just hard to wrap your brain around. I thought that there were a lot of really cool special effects in this movie that I enjoy. Visually, it's a beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure the subject matter was my thing.
I think it's one of the more CGI'd.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it didn't feel... I know it was CGI heavy, but it didn't
feel like it.
It didn't feel manufactured.
Yeah.
Obviously we know it is.
Like in Thor Dark World, how there was a lot of CGI. But you knew it was CGI. Even Ultron's robots.
This is going to sound really weird, but it's CGI in a realistic way. Which is weird considering, but
the mirror dimension, when we first see it at the beginning of the movie, it's just replicating real world.
Yeah.
So it is technically, you are right, it is CGI in the real world.
I don't know, it felt, especially because a lot of the CGI in this movie is the bending of the city and it obviously we know that can't actually happen.
But
But it
feels real because it's something real that you just saw. It's not like in Guardians of the Galaxy,
where they're just completely creating creatures or something like that.
Where it's still 100% CGI, but it feels more realistic.
I think it really comes down to, like, that's a testament to the quality of the CGI.
But you can tell, look at the CGI of Iron Man 1 compared to now. The technological advancements that Disney and Marvel have made just in 2008 to 2008 years.
Like, I liked parts of this movie. I liked the acting. I liked the CGI. Mm-hmm. It was the plot and the story that's where it kind of fell apart for me. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, just like...
Not necessarily that it was bad. I had a hard time understanding it apart. We can, like, jump in.
Yeah.
So the first scene is, like, I wouldn't call it a cold open, because there's not really a
cold open.
But it's, we get introduced to Mads Mikkelsen, and he's a character called, what is it, Caecilius is his name?
Caecilius. Which his name is based off of
some kind of amphibian.
It's a
rare snake-like amphibian.
Yeah.
And he's basically breaking into what we later figure out is the library at this training facility. Comatage. Yeah. So.
Comatage.
And he.
Say that 5 times fast.
He steals
He steals a couple pages from a ancient tome.
And it's the book of, like...
we don't know yet.
But it has a specific name.
Yeah, we don't know the book yet. All that we know is he stole it, do some evil deeds. That's what we know as of right now.
He is then fighting...
the ancient one.
We later figure out is Tilda Swinton's character, the ancient one.
Yeah.
And...
this is when we first start seeing the CGI.
It immediately reminded me of both, what is that movie? Inception?
Yeah.
And a little bit of In the Heights, like that one song where they're dancing on the side of the building. The song that, like, you thought was really boring. It's like the ballad between, what's her face? The girl with the curly hair.
Where they're dancing. Oh. With the black guy, yeah. Okay.
With Benny and
yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Where they're, like, going through the city.
Yeah. It's like the love song between them. I don't know why that's where my brain went, but it's like...
I don't know either.
But, like, it also kind of reminded me of Inception a little bit. But, like, better.
I say Inception more later in the movie when they're fighting in the New York Sanctum.
Well, there's also, like, a shot later of, like... You'll see like them walking up walls and...
Yeah, but yeah, so we see them fighting.
And my thought was, can people on the street see this? And later there's a scene where they're in Hong Kong and you can see people reacting.
Because they're not in the mirror dimension. When they're in the mirror dimension, as was explained later, what happens in the mirror dimension stays in the mirror dimension.
So it's like Vegas?
Magical Vegas. It is Magical Vegas for a bachelor's weekend. Think of it like it's literally just the other side of a mirror. It's a different dimension.
See, these concepts are just too broad for me.
Just you wait. Just you wait until some of the later movies when...
I'm really not looking forward to even talking about the multiverse.
Which?
I've barely been able to understand what's this universe.
But what happens there doesn't affect the real world. That's why, like, later in the movie, when Mordo...
Who I keep calling Mordo, which is the villain in Brave.
Him and Strange do some stuff later with it completely modifying. You can really only mess with reality when you're in the mirror dimension, because that's when the laws of physics sort of go away.
So basically they're fighting on the side of this building, and they basically can, like, open up portals and stuff like that.
With their sling ring. That's their magical wand.
Yeah, I know. So then we get introduced to Stephen Strange to the tune of Shining Star by Earth, Wind & Fire, which is a fantastic song.
Because he is a world-renowned surgeon, and it feels like an episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, it really does feel like an episode of Grey's Anatomy in the very beginning of this, because it's like, and I've only seen, oh god, I don't even know, up to like season 10 or something. I in no way, shape, or form finished it.
We watched a lot.
I think, because this was like during COVID we were binging it, like during early COVID.
Uh-huh.
And I think we stopped watching about when, spoiler alert, McDreamy dies.
No, we stopped way after. We stopped like 2 seasons later.
I don't remember.
It was a while later.
But like, that was kind of when we both were like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And he basically is like this rock star surgeon, and like he has some case where the one doctor thinks it's like kind of a dead end, and the person,
because he's brain dead, but it's because the bullet hit a part of the brain that shows him as brain dead, but the bullet is completely intact.
But it really does feel like an
episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. And we have our introduction to Rachel McAdams, who was originally supposed to be Pepper Potts, but she denied it. She like didn't take the role because, for whatever reason,
she didn't know how Marvel movies were going to go. No one did at that time.
I do really like them together.
Mm-hmm. They're good together.
I've criticized it a little bit of their romance plots before, i.e. Star-Lord and Gamora, because I felt like it was a little random.
Yeah, that one is a little random.
It just like doesn't serve the plot. And this one doesn't either, but it's already established their relationship.
But it helps to show Dr. Stephen Strange's
like arrogance.
Yes.
He has somebody to lash out at. But their relationship, not romantic relationship, but their relationship to each other as characters is already established, whereas I feel like Star-Lord and Gamora was their romance felt a little shoehorned because they barely knew each other.
Yeah.
That I'm a little bit less mad about. I thought that they were funny together. She was not afraid to call him out on his crap, which I really enjoy in characters.
I mean, but
frankly, I think that's a healthy thing to do in relationships anyway.
But I mean, Pepper does the exact same thing for Tony.
Yeah, I just don't like Pepper. I think that's really what it comes down to.
I think, in my opinion, I think more people would like Pepper if it
wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes.
Because I think I would like her if it was Rachel McAdams. Because I like Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Like, she has a much more assertive vibe to her.
Yes.
Than Gwyneth does. So he's basically flying down the highway in his dumb sports car.
He's heading to a neurosurgeon conference.
And he gets a call about a bunch of cases, potential cases. And one of them is about a
Air Force colonel who has back injuries flying experimental
has like experimental
outfit.
Wings or something.
An experimental
which
suit.
Is Rhodey.
Yeah. So essentially the start of Doctor Strange happens
at the end of Civil War.
No, like right after that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So after the fight in Germany, is when Doctor Strange starts.
Yeah.
So we're sort of at this point learning what movies go where in the timeline at this point.
Well, and what I like about that is it's not like, oh, Sergeant Rhodes gets hurt. It's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And
where if you haven't seen the other Marvel movies, you wouldn't know who they were talking about.
Well, it's like if somebody like my mom, for example, who's never seen any of these, happened to be watching the movie with us, she wouldn't be lost. Or I think she still would be, but But
you didn't catch it right away.
No, I didn't. I was like, because my immediate thought during that was like, that knowing these movies, that has to be important.
Mm-hmm.
That only because I've gotten to know how these movies work.
Yeah, and then the other person that he was talking to, or the other case, he was like, well, I'm not jeopardizing my, he doesn't want to jeopardize his successful rate.
Yeah.
Because all of his cases come back as successes.
Mm-hmm.
One failure, he could start not getting awards.
Which I feel like, and, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I'm not a doctor, but I feel like the whole point is to at least, like, try to help somebody.
Yeah, but at his level, he wouldn't.
But he's
want
also like
a world renowned.
How do I phrase this where it sounds a little more classy than what my brain wants to say? He's so arrogant that
he doesn't want to take a loss.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to lose anything.
He doesn't want to risk
his success.
Yeah. So he basically, because he's, not paying attention
going
to this,
90,000 miles an hour down the highway.
He gets in a car accident that crushes his hands, and my literal note is, bye-bye surgery.
His hands get crushed. 11 pins, multiple wiring. His bones pretty much turned into dust.
Even if you're not a world-renowned surgeon, that sucks.
So...
Okay, it's because technically, yes, getting any other kind of debilitating injury would affect your mobility. But, yes, he can still walk, but, you don't realize how much you use your hands until, you can't do anything.
No. So, there is a fan theory about this, that the Ancient One caused the wreck.
Well,
to start the event.
Because isn't there a line in, a previous movie where, what's his name, Sitwell?
Yeah, Sitwell talks...
They've been talking, or they've been looking for him.
No, they were looking...
They were watching him.
They were watching him because of his intelligence.
So...
Because of his intelligence. Because
I buy that fan theory, though, that
the Ancient One...
But does the Ancient One have anything to do with S.H.I.E.L.D.? I doubt it.
No, this does not have anything to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra or anything. Tilda Swinton's character, the Ancient One, caused the wreck to have Doctor Strange become part of them as a defender of the world. That's the fan theory. Because at the end of it, he found out about them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that she orchestrated everything.
No, but the fan theory just goes that she had a part in the wreck. Because it was a clear sky and then all of a sudden it just started downpouring.
I don't know. You guys let us know what you guys think of that fan theory, because I don't know where I stand on that.
There's a lot of different fan theories that deal with Doctor Strange just because his origin is so out there. Because there had to be so many things to be set in motion. He had to be on a phone call. Mm-hmm. It happened to just start raining at that time when there was no thunder literally before that. It just happened to be another car was on the road.
It's all kind of like a series of perfect accidents.
Yeah. Too many perfect things happened.
Too many dominoes had to fall in exactly the right order.
Yeah. Because if it wasn't raining, he would not have spun out and hit the other car.
But also, if he wasn't so reckless.
That is true.
But also, it fits his character that he'd be being reckless.
Yeah.
So we get this montage of him desperate to get his mobility back.
So we see him talking to so many different surgeons in different countries.
And everybody's like, it's not worth it. Which is, kind of mirroring how he is.
Mm-hmm. Because they're all top in their field. He does so many different experimental surgeries that he pays for out of his own pocket. He's taking $1 million worth of loans out.
Which... I mean, I've never been in any sort of debilitating accident or had any sort of disability happen or anything like that. But I imagine this is pretty realistic.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has the means in which to do it.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But
I mean, think about it. If you were the top...
A lot of musicians.
Yeah, if you were a top musician and your vocal cord... ripped.
Or, even in this similar situation, if you were a piano player or something like that.
And you broke a finger, you wouldn't be able to play. And you probably would have a hard time going back.
Well, even if you, you're a big gamer. If you broke your hand, you wouldn't be able to...
No, I wouldn't be able to game.
Yeah. Even though it's not your livelihood.
No, but I would have a hard time even just typing.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I have a hard time typing now, anyway. But...
But no, but I think that this desperation is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
I think this desperation is pretty realistic. I think I don't know. I don't have a frame of reference to be completely honest, but
that is. I mean, he did lose his sole income.
I feel like even if it was even a much less injury, I feel like if you had the means, you would do whatever it took.
I mean, think about it. For our son, if he got injured, wouldn't we try to do anything in our power?
Exactly.
I wouldn't call it desperation. I would call it...
would.
Depends on the situation. In Doctor Strange's point, yes.
I mean, this is his livelihood. This is his image. This is is everything.
Yeah.
So we basically get introduced to Jonathan Pangborn, the guy who broke his back.
Oh, yeah.
And they, he is
the one playing basketball.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like 90% sure that actor is in a crime show that I've watched.
I don't know what.
Or is he the guy from Miss Congeniality?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the guy from Miss Congeniality. It's Benjamin Bratt. I was like, I knew he looked familiar.
Yeah. He was in Coco.
Oh, he's the voice of Ernesto de la Cruz.
Mm-hmm. He was in Law & Order, the original.
Not gonna lie, I'd not seen the original Law & Order, even though I'm a massive SVU fan. But basically, he broke a bunch of vertebrae in his back.
He broke his C6, C7.
I only know, the L3. I only know the lower back ones. Because those are the ones I have issues with.
Yeah, it's your...
That's your lower. C is,
middle.
center.
Yeah, so he broke the middle.
Editing Sarah here. So, a quick Google search. The C3 vertebrae is located in your neck and not in your lower back, like I previously stated. Again, I'm not a doctor, but an injury to this area would result in quadriplegia, which is paralysis of the rest of your body, basically. So, don't take medical advice from us. Steven figures out that he went to the Ancient One in Nepal to get this experimental treatment, is the way that it's phrased to him. He spends his last dime getting out to Nepal to go to
Literally a one-way ticket.
To get to this place called Kamar Taj. That's how they say it in the movie. I don't know if that's actual.
Let's go with that.
That's how everybody said it in the movie.
Then let's go with that.
I am sure there is an actual pronunciation of that if it is truly. I'm not going to try to pronounce the actual place that he goes to, but it's in Nepal, and he meets the Ancient One, who played by Tilda Swinton, who I love usually, and I don't want to dwell too much on this because it's not that important. I enjoy Tilda Swinton and the things that she has done. However, I don't know if she was necessarily the most appropriate person for the role. The filmmakers have said multiple times that they casted Tilda Swinton for the express purpose that the Ancient One is more of an idea and less of a person.
Yeah.
I personally feel like that's kind of a cop-out.
But, I mean, my only issue with
it felt a little weird.
Because in the comics, it's a old Asian dude.
Yes.
In the comics.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
But I don't know why they would go with an idea, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Because the Ancient One's supposed to be a concept.
In the comics, there's only one Ancient One.
I get why you're being so linear about it. That's just what the filmmaker said.
Yeah, I feel like
that's a cop-out.
Yeah.
But because, so they casted her because they didn't want it to reach into racial stereotypes to cast an Asian man because in a role that's based off of a Buddhist monk. Sure, but I feel like they inadvertently were problematic. Again, I don't want to dwell too much on that. I'm not the authority to speak on that kind of thing, but it felt a little weird. I like Tilda Swinton. I thought she did okay in this role. I thought it was I think she did a decent job. I don't know if it's the most comfy casting.
Yeah, but I mean, it works.
It is what it is.
She does play some weird characters.
It's better than the tons of Asian roles that what's her face? Scarlett Johansson was casted for.
It was one.
There was a couple.
Yeah.
I don't know if all of them were made, but there were a couple.
Yeah.
I really like the debate that the Ancient One and Steven are having about, the
chakras and MRIs
and science versus the spiritual. Mm-hmm. Because I think that is a constant debate our society is having in terms of what is real, what is not, like what's psychosomatic, all of this stuff. And I personally, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I personally believe that it's somewhere in between. I think that there is a sense of mind over matter in a lot of things.
I know this was said in an earlier Marvel movie. Science is just magic that we don't understand.
Yeah. But like I don't subscribe to a lot of like chakras and all like that kind of thing, but I do think that, you know, that there are some things that are a mind over matter type of thing. You know, like a lot of like obviously there are medical needs, and I fully believe in science and all of that stuff.
Yes.
However, but there are some things that cannot be treated on a scientific level.
Yeah.
That are more I don't want to say psychosomatic because that feels like rude.
No, psychosomatic.
But you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
I hesitate to use examples because I don't want people to like think I'm, but like I think that yoga is great for stretching, but I don't necessarily subscribe to it from a spiritual perspective, if that makes sense.
But think about it.
No hate to if you do, but
no, but like think about it. Science today, if we took the modern science from today and we took it back to the start of science.
Well, I mean, even look at like...
They would see it as magic.
Even look at like Eastern medicine. I mean, they treat sicknesses...
With herbs.
With herbs and all of that kind of stuff.
But I mean, that's the same. They have herbs in different, like,
I just think that
rituals.
I think this conversation that him and the Ancient One are having is really interesting, and I feel like we have all had, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like we've all had this conversation with somebody in our lives that, you know, is super into the spiritual stuff or is super into, like, you know, one way or the other kind of thing. And personally, I think it's somewhere in between, and you're allowed to explore both, and I do think it's a little bit rigid to only do one or only do the other. We learn about the astral dimension.
Yeah, so the astral dimension, which is when your body is just not...
Which astral projection is a thing. It's not exactly how it's portrayed in this movie,
but there's... The astral projection in the movie is more out-of-body experience.
Yeah, I mean, there is in... I've never personally experienced it, so I can't speak for it, but there is something to be said for, like, a lot of people have it in their sleep. Like, they feel like they're kind of floating above their body. Yeah. I've never personally experienced that.
Yeah, same here, I have not.
But it is common, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, people think dreaming is part astral.
Yeah, but what is it to be said for, like, I don't ever remember my dreams. Like, ever. I wake up and, like, what does that mean? I can't even remember the last time I remembered a dream. Like, it's been years.
No, but in the astral dimension and the mirror realm are both very similar to the quantum realm. With the mirror dimension, everything goes along a certain geometry, which is why when you saw it, like, later in the movie, how it was like a perfect snowflake.
It looks like a kaleidoscope.
Yes, where it's a perfect shape on all sides.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the quantum realm, as if you remember from Ant-Man. How it was, like, when he would go in, it would completely open to be all symmetrical on all sides. And, like, fold in on itself and fold out on itself.
And this is where I stopped being able to understand anything. We also... She uses a couple of times in this movie the word multiverse. So we barely touch it in this movie.
We barely touch it in this phase. We only see one other multiverse. Frankly,
I'm really not looking forward to getting into the multiverse just because I barely understand it now. I feel like it'll just get more confusing.
Easiest way to remember for the multiverse. I know this is going to be really dumb, but like the butterfly effect.
No, I know what the concept of the multiverse is. It just is a little bit confusing.
Just you wait. Just you wait.
Um,
This will make sense once we get further along.
we have, like, a little training montage of him, like, learning, like...
Trying, because...
So, she calls them spells. So I'm gonna call them spells.
They are spells.
So are they wizards?
Yes.
Because, okay,
Yes.
so every fantasy, and if you are at all familiar with, like, the YA boom of, like, I would say 2014 to, like, 2017-ish, like, I feel like every book, every YA novel had their own magic system, and it was always difficult for me to wrap my brain around a lot of it.
Yeah, so...
Because I'm so used to the magic system in Harry Potter. Like, I feel like every culture has their own version of this kind of thing.
So, this one is not so much, like...
It's not like magic wands magic.
It's not like Harry Potter magic. It's more of, like, defensive and making weapon magic.
Yeah, but they also make portals,
That's why I say it's more defensive.
Because Harry Potter magic is much more about, like... Yeah, they have their defensive magic.
Yeah, but it's more attack first, ask later.
Well, not even that, but they have, like... They have food spells. They have multiplication spells. They have cleaning spells.
This is literally...
They have just life spells.
This is literally... We learn... That's the thing. We don't see a whole lot of Marvel magic.
A lot of it, yeah, is pretty much brute force.
Yes.
There's not a whole lot of...
It's more of, like, matter manipulation. Not so much...
It's like...
It's not Wingardium Leviosa. It's not, like, Expecto Patronum or anything like that from Harry Potter.
It's interesting because previously it's been the heroes that are special, not their powers, really. And now it's the powers that are making the hero special.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit interesting.
Which we kind of saw with Spider-Man.
Because for the most part, at least most people that we've met so far are normal people that just so happen to be superheroes.
Captain America.
No, I know. And there is exceptions, is my point.
Yeah, true.
But, like Natasha is a normal girl, she just happens to be a badass.
Hawkeye.
He is a normal dude, but he just happens to have really good aim.
Iron Man.
He's a normal dude.
They're all... That's the thing.
I mean, I guess the exception here is Hulk.
Thor.
Yeah. I mean, there are exceptions.
Thor is a little...
This is not a sweeping generalization.
No, I know.
I know. I don't know. I feel like the magic is just such a deviation from what we're used to right now. And then we get into the people that are like...
the Masters.
No. We get into the people that are like Rhodey and Falcon, who are...
Literally just normal dudes, nothing special about them.
It's their outfit.
Yeah.
But, like, I can see... So, because Doctor Strange and Wanda, which I know that Wanda comes into play in his story later, but they're much more akin to each other in different ways.
Wanda knows ancient magic.
But, like, their powers are a lot more similar than they are to each other than they are to the other guys.
No. Because for Doctor Strange...
You get what I'm trying to say, though.
Yeah, for Doctor Strange to do magic, he has to have the sling ring to do magic.
So it's like the equivalent of the wand.
Yes. While Scarlet Witch doesn't have to do anything. She can create matter from nothing. But she can't create a burger to eat. She can't...
Well, it's the same thing with Harry Potter. Like, you can't create something out of nothing.
All of her spells are defensive, or are attacking.
Yeah. So, we get introduced to Wong the Librarian.
The second librarian. Because the first one got beheaded in the first scene when they stole the pages.
I love Wong. I think he's hilarious. I think he's great.
Yeah, Wong's funny. So, we start learning... So...
He basically talks about, like, the different
spells, different types of magic, things like that.
We find out that we found out in the beginning, but 2 pages are missing from the, what is it called, like, the Book of Cagliostro, or...
So we learned that 2 pages were ripped out. we didn't know what... We kind of knew what the 2 pages were. Because we saw them... We saw in his 5 disciples do a magic spell to pull energy... Caecilius. To pull energy from the Dark Realm. Yeah. Which is ran by Dormammu.
So basically, he finds this...
So he...
The Eye of Amagato orb, which is the Time Stone. Or it encases the Time Stone.
Yes.
And it allows him to basically open up time-space continuums.
Yeah.
And he's, like, practicing with, like, an apple, and it's like eating itself and then regrowing.
So Doctor Strange is learning... Yeah, so Doctor Strange is learning how to manipulate time, which is against the fundamental laws of nature.
And Mordo. I don't know why I keep calling him Mordo.
Yeah.
Have you seen Brave?
Yes.
In my brain, I keep calling him Mordo with a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Literally the only thing I can ever say in a Scottish accent is that guy's name. Anyway, he is, like, not happy about it because, like, he's very, like, rule governed and, like, this is not how... This is not
what we do.
Yeah.
But he learned how to open the Eye of Agamotto, which is based off of a Buddhist talisman for protection. Is what the creator of Doctor Strange designed it off of. Mm-hmm. But we also learn at this point that there are 3 sanctums in the world.
There's London, Hong Kong, and New York.
Yes. London gets destroyed after Caecilius gets the power from Dormammu.
I didn't mention it, but the street corner that they're fighting on is the exact same street corner in Deathly Hallows Part 1 where they're, like, sneaking into the Ministry. That they're, like, attacking the 3 people. Mm-hmm. It's that exact street corner that, like, you see, like, Ron peering around the corner.
Yeah.
And to, like, attack the guy to, like, take his clothes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's that exact street corner. I don't know why I recognized that immediately, but I did. It's where, like, the entrance to the Ministry of Magic is.
But we see him destroy London, come through. Doctor Strange gets thrown into New York's. And then we see them destroy the master of the New York Sanctum.
Yeah, and it's
Secret Sanctum.
It's like 117 Beaker.
Yeah,
which
177A Beaker Street.
Yeah, 177. And it is Greenwich Village, which, fun fact, is the same neighborhood that Friends takes place in. Yeah. It's basically, like, right near NYU and Washington Square Park, and it's a pretty wealthy area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful there. But apparently it was... I have a fact about it. Hold on. 177A is the address of a townhouse apartment shared by Marvel comic book writers Gary Friedrich and Roy Thomas in the 60s. The latter of whom wrote several Doctor Strange stories, though not the 1963 issue of the Strange Tales that revealed the address is 177A Beaker.
Caecilius attacks New York with 2 other zealots. They kill the original master with an invisible sword that he pulled from the Mirror Realm.
Yeah.
He pretty much modified the Mirror Realm into a sword. And he killed him. So, Doctor Strange is fighting. This is when he gets the Cloak of Levitation.
Which has kind of a life of its own. Yes. And really reminds me of the carpet from Aladdin.
Okay.
Because the carpet has so much personality and, like, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like this cloak, especially when it's, like, knocking people out, and there's a point where it, like, wipes his face. Like, the collar of it wipes his face.
So, Doctor Strange actually suggested that.
Benedict Cumberbatch
actually suggested doing that to add more character to him.
I really like the cloak. The cloak reminds me a little bit of Tony's robot.
And there's 3 doors at the end of the hallway to go to 3 different places on Earth. To where he makes 2 of them go through there. One in desert, one in the forest. He gets stabbed. He makes a portal to go to the New York, and he is fighting.
Oh, all the while he lost his sling ring.
He lost his sling ring after he went into the portal.
And he basically arrives in Christine's hospital, who she hasn't seen for
months.
Yeah, months.
At this point, it's probably been 5 or 6 months.
In my opinion, she is way too calm in this scene.
But she's also a doctor.
Yeah, I know.
So they're trained to stay calm in dire situations.
True. I don't know. I know my ADD and my...
This is why you cannot be a doctor. I love you.
Oh, I'm way not smart enough for that.
I wasn't even going that point.
No, my anxiety is, like, way too high for that.
No, so...
Also, I hate blood.
So we see Doctor Strange starting to die. And so he goes into the Astral realm and helps Christine do it.
Yeah, but he's also fighting the dude.
Yeah, he's also fighting a zealot.
And they keep hitting stuff that's in the real realm.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Like, they knock something off a bookshelf at one point. They hit the light.
Which makes the light move. But I say this is a Matrix reference.
Well, there is actually a quote that said Kevin Feige was inspired by The Matrix which, if you're not aware, Matthew's favorite movie of all time is The Matrix.
If you die... I didn't know this. If you died in the astral realm, you died in real life.
It's like The Matrix.
It is like The Matrix. If you die in The Matrix, you die in real life.
He's really trying to push for us to cover The Matrix on this podcast.
If you think we should cover Matrix, post it on our Instagram and Twitter.
If you think these movies hurt my brain, do you really want to watch me struggle through The Matrix?
I will explain everything in The Matrix to you, to where you can understand
So
it.
to fully put this into perspective, every time him and his mom talk about The Matrix, they talk about it for like hours. Hours. I'm not even joking.
Of different theories.
Just can't.
I mean, you liked the fourth one.
I was barely paying attention.
It had, King George from Hamilton.
Jonathan Groff?
Yeah.
I do love Jonathan Groff.
Yeah.
But I'm also a musical theater nerd.
He plays Agent Smith in the fourth one.
Isn't that a huge spoiler?
No. The movie's been out for like a year now.
Sorry if we just spoiled Matrix 4 for you.
Which you learn at the beginning of that movie, but we're not talking about Matrix here. We may do Matrix after we're done with Marvel.
Which is never, because it's never ending.
You're not wrong. No, but so this is when Mordo. I want to say Mordor.
I want to say Mordo.
But I've been playing a lot of Shadow of War, which is Lord of the Rings.
You've never seen those movies.
Yes, I've seen Lord of the Rings.
You've seen the first one.
No, I've seen them all.
Really?
Yes, like years ago.
I thought we watched the first one for the first time together.
No, I watched it years ago. I don't remember a whole lot. I wasn't paying attention.
Those movies are long, dude.
They're like 5 hours long each. And all 3 movies are just one book. They're the original.
If you guys are desperate for us to do Lord of the Rings,
keep it to yourself. Because Lord of the Rings hurts my brain.
There's so many people in that show, or that movie.
And there's so many things that go on all at the same time. No, but if you guys do have any suggestions for what you want to see next, message us. We're on Reddit. We're on Instagram.
All of our social medias are listed at the end of the episode.
Yeah, so if you have any suggestions of
future things, it doesn't necessarily need to be like a thing that either one of us are a fan of. We can discover it together.
Yeah, just let us know. Put it in the comments.
We're always looking for ways to carry this podcast on.
Yeah,
as long as we can.
We're still trying to figure out where we want to go after Marvel.
We're leaning towards Harry Potter being next,
but
we're just trying to figure out the logistics on that.
Yeah.
That's so not important right now.
But we still have a lot before we get to that.
We'll be doing Marvel until like February, so
yeah,
at the least.
Probably March.
Anyway,
but we
got off on a real tangent there.
But we see more of the Mirror Realm. So we see the Mirror Realm pretty much to its full extent. Because with the powers that they got, the bad guys got.
The Zealots.
They can do more in the Mirror Realm. Granted, yes, Doctor Strange and Mordor, whatever his name is.
We will never get this dude's name right.
Whatever his name is.
Mordo. I think it's Mordo.
Mordo can modify the mirror realm to an extent, but they can't do it to the same capacity as Callius. Caecilius. I'm just butchering all of these names today. I don't know if I need caffeine or I just was not paying attention.
At first I thought it was capsaicin at first, which is what makes a pepper spicy. And I was like,
the spicy pepper.
It's the chemical of what makes things spicy.
Yeah, I know.
So we basically figure out that Caecilius wants to live forever.
Yes.
Also, his makeup is really cool in this scene. You were asking me if I thought that it was real or if it was CGI.
I think it's a mixture of both.
So, I've never done makeup professionally, but I did it a lot for fun, and I did makeup YouTube for a really long time. That's not important. So I have a lot of makeup knowledge. More than likely it was real. It was probably done with like iridescent pigments and glitter.
Yeah, because it looked really, really good.
It reminds me of like a super crazy version of some of the stuff they do on Euphoria.
Yeah.
That show is not for the faint of heart, let me tell you.
No.
It is really good, but intense as hell.
Yes. We learn, also in this scene, that the Ancient One also pulls dark magic from Dormammu.
Yes.
Which is how she was able to live for so long. Which puts Mordo. I'm sorry. It's just weird that there's no E in his name.
I guarantee you the blurb of this episode is probably going to have something to do with why we can't remember this guy's name.
So we learned that she draws power from the dark realm, the dark dimension. And so that puts him into a spiral of, why should I be good if everything I taught was based in evil? Which then I'm like, just get over it. That doesn't change the fact of anything. In all honesty, does it?
That they're upset that she's trying to get
that she's living forever?
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah,
I don't think it affects anything.
No. But she's been doing good. She's been trying to find her quote-unquote replacement all this time. Because she felt guilty that she was pulling magic from the Dark Realm. She felt guilty, but she had to make their magic live on.
Is the pulling magic from the Dark Realm, is it kind of like drinking unicorn blood, where like you live a cursed life and a half-life?
I wouldn't say that. More of like putting a stopper on your age now. You live forever, your body and mind stay the same how you are now. We learn that then she dies. She gives up. This is where the fan theory takes place.
Oh, she basically falls through a pane of glass.
Yes.
And the entire crowd is like screaming, which it was a very like Final Destination scene. Mm-hmm. It's like falling through this pane of glass.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't remember exactly which Final Destination movie it is. It's like, but one of the deaths is that there's a giant pane of glass. Like, they're doing construction. Yeah. And a giant pane of glass gets, like, dropped on some... I think it might be 2.
Maybe. I don't know. I've seen them once.
I love those movies. I am aware they're bad, but I think they're great campy horror.
Yeah. But we learn... This is where the fan theory sort of started with her and Strange talking. Because,
She died almost as soon as he was, like, coming into his full power.
Yeah. This is where the fan theory takes place.
I'm really intrigued to know what other people think, because I don't know where I stand on this.
Why would the master, the Ancient One, the supreme sorcerer, start to die? Or pretty much give up living.
So, before she actually dies, they're, like, running through...
the hospital.
No, they're running through New York, and they're bending the city.
Yes.
And they're basically, like... The platforms that they're fighting on are, like, warped versions of, like, fire escapes.
Fire escapes, sidewalks.
Yeah, and it's a really cool... I don't think we can do it justice by explaining it.
The mirror realm
it's just, you have to watch it. It's really cool.
It's based off of M.C. Escher.
So there's a paint. I guarantee you have seen it.
Everyone has seen this. It's
there's a famous piece of art
where it's the stairs going in all whichever directions.
Yes, it's like the never-ending staircase, I think is what it's technically called. Editing Sarah here. The piece of art that we are referencing is a lithograph print by M.C. Escher entitled Relativity. If you ever took an art class of any kind, even in high school or middle school, I guarantee you know what we're talking about. It's a very, very, very famous piece of art. Yeah. I think. But I guarantee you've seen it.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't conscious of it, you've definitely seen it.
Yeah. Which is what the mirror dimension is based off of.
He's a mathematical painter. Those are things that shouldn't go together.
This is also where we get the Stan Lee cameo.
He's on a bus. Or a train or something.
He's on a bus.
He also filmed 4 Stan Lee cameos in one day.
Mm-hmm.
One being this, one being Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
And then 2 others that... So, in the Stan Lee cameo, he is reading a book by Aldous Huxley.
The Doors of Perception.
About Huxley's... mescaline drug trip in the psychedelic world he saw, which is the Dark Realm and the Mirror Realm. Marvel didn't want Doctor Strange to be smoking
certain substances,
drugs, and psychedelic medicines, but in the comics he does. That's how he goes into the dark dimension and other dimensions, is through that way, because it opens his mind. Disney didn't want that,
because this is Marvel Studios owned by Disney. We're fully in the Disney days now.
Yes. The other 2 that are rumored was Spider-Man Homecoming and Dora Ragnarok are rumored for the other 2, because those are still 2 more that are in this phase. So
basically they go to Hong Kong because that's where Caecilius is headed next. Mm-hmm. And Doctor Strange is trying to make everything go back in time.
Yeah, so he completely reverses all the damage.
Well, he pauses it.
No, he reverses it first, and then he falls, and then time breaks. And then everything's paused.
Is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this a couple of times, and I couldn't actually pinpoint exactly what it is, but, like, multiple things have had, like, time being paused, and, like, the way that they do it, because it's not just, like, everybody in the background freeze.
Yeah.
It's, like, they actually, like, pause the background and do some CGI.
Where, like, birds flying or pause. Like, there's one person on a walk and, like, threw the food up, and that's also all pause.
Yeah, he's, like, cooking, like, some stir fry or whatever, and he, like, tosses the food. Or there's, I think, like, somebody hit, like, a pile of boxes, and the boxes are flying.
Mm-hmm. But we see him, because in the comics, he does a lot with time. He manipulates time in the comics.
Yeah.
So that was sort of... The Aya Agimoto is... and the Cloak of Levitation are his magical items. So, like, Mordo had the boots.
Yeah.
Wong had the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Those were their magical items. Kind of like in Harry Potter where the wizard doesn't choose the wand chooses the wizard. Yeah. It's the same thing. The magical artifact chooses the person.
Makes me wonder if you can use somebody else's magical artifact.
You probably could, but it probably...
But it's like... Because, like, okay, if you use somebody else's wand, you can still... It's still, like, effective, but just not as much.
I don't know.
Because, like, Harry uses Hermione's wand in the last one.
But they don't ever say. So
I don't know. I just think it would be interesting.
I have no idea.
So, there's a really cool shot where Caecilius gets... So, everything's going back in time. And everything's kind of repairing. And Caecilius gets briefly encased in the stone wall that was previously broken. He broke out of it, but it's cool.
One zealot got thrown into
a fish tank.
A fish tank and presumably died. Because it's a fish tank. Sealed with water. And the other one got trapped in, like, a bamboo construction.
And then he's going into what I referred to as the neon realm. And I said out loud to Matthew, this is giving cosmic mini golf.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't.
But no one knows how long he was where he created a time loop. No one knows for how long. It could have been days. It could have been years.
Yeah, he creates a time loop, and he's to disorient.
No, because he wants to bargain with Dormammu.
He wants to
bargain.
Yeah, but he wants to he wants to anger him
because there's no way Doctor Strange can kill him. He is a unkillable energy being.
You haven't seen Moana, have you? Dormammu, the way that the giant face kind of reminds me of Te Fiti.
Yeah.
If you've seen Moana, you know what I'm talking about.
Most of it, so I know what happened.
It reminds me of when Te Fiti basically comes alive and she's the giant lava, and that's what it reminds me of. It's the giant face.
Yeah. But Benedict Cumberbatch actually played both. He was the voice.
He was Smaug.
Yeah,
right?
He was Smaug. Smaug?
I thought it was Smaug.
I don't know. Giant dragon from Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is not my cup of tea. I know my sister-in-law, both of my sisters-in-law are super into it.
But
it is just, if you think Marvel is a lot, oh boy. But this time loop it's entertaining.
It's funny, because it's literally him just saying, I want a bargain.
It shouldn't be as funny. And then
he just dies. And then he just comes back.
The climax shouldn't be as funny as it is, but it is genuinely really funny.
Where it's just full on him just messing with him. Because essentially he's just torturing him. Living the same moment over and over. Because nothing's going to happen to Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
He can't die. Because he created a time loop. So as soon as he dies, it goes back 2 minutes.
So how did he break out of it?
He didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
When Dormammu said, I agree. Because the bargain was, take Caecilius and leave Earth alone.
But it could have been several decades.
It could have been centuries.
Yeah.
Of that torture going on. It could have gone on forever. No one knows. We only saw it 10 times. But it could have gone on a lot longer. Because I doubt an all-powerful being would have given up after 10 Doctor Strange deaths. In all honesty.
I don't know, the villains always get, frustrated and
yeah, but this is an all-powerful being. Eternally... This being cannot die. So, it could have been centuries. But Doctor Strange would not have aged at all. Because he created a time loop. And no one else would have aged because time paused.
Does he remember every single time loop?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then...
This is when we learn that we learn more about the sanctums and the Infinity Stones, and that the Time Stone is in the eye of Agamotto.
Because Wong is something about the Infinity Stones.
And he's like, what's that? And he's like, you were just controlling time. You don't even know what you were using to control it with. But, so yeah, we know 5 Infinity Stones. Do you know where all 5 are?
The Tesseract is in Asgard. Yeah, they brought it up to Asgard.
Yeah.
I was about to question my sanity for a hot second.
It is, yes.
The Power Stone is in space. It's at the Collector.
No. Power is not. Reality is.
Yeah. Yes.
Power...
Power...
Do you remember where Power is?
It was in Guardians. It's the purple one.
Yes. Xandar.
Okay.
It's locked up in Xandar.
And then Mind is on the head of Vision.
Mm-hmm.
And then Time is at, what's this? The Kajar.
Yeah.
So then our 2 end credit sequences, he's talking to Thor.
Yeah.
In which we have watched the, Team Thor videos.
We don't talk about those.
What?
They're parodies. They're not part of the MCU.
No, I know. I just thought they were funny.
But
I think Chris Hemsworth needs to do more,
This end scene credit is part of Thor Ragnarok. Mordo taking the magic from...
Oh yeah, he goes and... Was it Jonathan? His name is Jonathan. I can't remember his Pangborn.
So. Pangborn. Which doesn't make sense.
It's the magic that's keeping him walking, basically.
Yeah, it's just keeping his ability to move. But
and if you when he takes it, he kind of isn't able to be mobile anymore.
But the thing is, that end scene credit makes zero sense because we don't go back to that at all. Like...
Yeah, they didn't do anything with it.
No. Which they've never done an end scene credit where they don't continue something.
So overall, what were your thoughts revisiting this movie?
I like it. I like the more expositional pieces. Because it just...
They're planting seeds.
Yes, planting seeds, and it adds more to the overall story without having to go, okay, here's another Avengers movie. Here's another group movie. Where we can have a individual...
We're starting a new story that's a piece of the whole.
Yes, where it's not just...
It's not a rehash of old stuff.
Yeah, it's not like Civil War, where it's like, okay, we see more of Cap and Iron Man's fighting.
Mm-hmm.
That's been drawn out since the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Especially with that lab scene when Hulk grabs the Loki's staff.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always seen them have issues. I'm glad that it's a new story. That's why I love Ant-Man. That's why I like the start of the heroes. Like Iron Man 1, Thor 1, Captain America, Ant-Man. I like the expositional ones a little bit more than the group movies, just because the group movies, there's so much going on.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I'm not sure I would pick this one as the first one to revisit.
No, I mean, it is a good one because it is the first one that is solely based on magic.
But like, okay, if I had 2 or 3 hours of my time and I wanted to revisit a Marvel movie, I don't know if this would be my first pick.
No, not at all. I wouldn't pick this one as my first one either.
I'd probably pick Age of Ultron so far. If I could only pick one, more than likely.
I would do Ragnarok.
No, of the ones we've gotten to.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. You'd pick Ant-Man.
Probably.
Do you have anything left to say?
No.
Alright, so yeah, that is a wrap on Doctor Strange. Next week we will be covering Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which should be fun. Well, we'll see y'all next week, and bye.
Bye. If you would like to send us any feedback, you can follow us on Instagram at thefanclub_podcast or Twitter at fanclub_podcast. You can also discuss each episode with us on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/thefanclubpodcast. And make sure you tune in every Marvel Monday.